Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Girls Who Eat, Breathe, and Dream Motorsport. I'm Danique, if you didn't know already, and I'm joined here by co-host Jamie. And today we are also joined by F1 photographer and motorsport photographer in general, Jamey Price. Welcome in. So first of all, we have the news of motorsport. Since we didn't record last week, we also are discussing the news from that week. We had the Tokyo E-Prix, which was a great success with Maximilian Günther going home with the gold, while Oliver Rowland with Nissan's home race took silver and Jake Dennis took the bronze. Lola cars and Yamaha have been confirmed to be on the Formula E grid in season 11. Nico Müller is said to have tested with Porsche, who are possibly looking to change their lineup for the 2025 season. The rookie test, or the FP0 as it's called, is happening this weekend in Misano, and the rookies that are confirmed to be driving for each team are for Abt Cupra, Tim Tramnitz, for Andretti Formula E is Zane Maloney, the Penske has Robert Schwartzman, Envision Racing has Jack Aitken, Formula E, ERT Formula E team has Mikael Ascona, Jaguar TCS Racing has Sheldon van der Linde, Mahindra has Jordan King, Maserati MSG Racing has Jan Erlacher, Nia McLaren Formula E has Taylor Barnard, Nissan Formula E has Caio Collet, and Tag Heuer Porsche Formula E has Matt Campbell taking part in this FP0. The rookie test in Berlin is also going to be happening, but we do not have a confirmed full list of this yet. And last weekend, we had the Japanese Grand Prix, which in the first couple of laps already had a red flag due to a crash with Daniel Ricciardo and Alex Albon, and the tire barriers had to be repaired before the race could continue due to safety. Zhou Guanyu retired with a gearbox issue. Max Verstappen once again went home with the gold, while Checo and Sainz completed the podium. It's now 2 weeks till we have the China Grand Prix, and this week it's race week in Misano with Formula E. It's a double header, so it means a race on Saturday and a race on Sunday, both with their own free practice sessions and qualifying sessions. And originally, the Next Gen Cup was supposed to be happening this weekend for the first time to support Formula E. However, this has been cancelled to be the support series for season 10 due to issues with the series itself. Yeah, that's all the news that we've had in the past 2 weeks. It's a lot, but a lot of exciting news, definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
The rookie session for Formula E. I think if you look that there are some younger drivers showing interest in Formula E, I think that's a good thing because the way to F1 is these days more difficult, and that they are open to other series. I think that's good to see.
Yeah, and especially since some of the rookies are also the test and reserve drivers for the teams, it shows like how committed they are to trying out other series, which I think is really a good thing because it's more and more young drivers in their F2 and F3 days already showing interest in Formula E. But yeah, I guess.
So we also already kind of introduced you, but could you tell us who you are and what your role is within motorsport?
My name is Jamey Price. I'm a professional motorsport photographer, so I cover Formula One, I cover IndyCar, I cover NASCAR, I cover sports car racing, primarily the IMSA WeatherTech series, but I also do a bit with World Endurance Championship. In the past, I've covered Formula E, I've covered MotoGP, I've covered pretty much everything with wheels that can possibly race. And I have the best job in the world that I get to travel all over the world taking pictures of really cool race cars.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
So, how did you become a motorsport photographer?
The short story is that I have always loved car racing. I've loved car racing since I was a little kid. I grew up just being fascinated by it. I think I just kind of found it one day while I was, searching uh TV channels on the old satellite TV, which makes me feel really old. But back in the day, we had these huge satellite dishes out in the backyard, and it was like 10 feet, 3 meters across, basically. And you'd turn a wheel, and the satellite dish would spin and turn to like a different satellite. And I remember I was like flipping channels, which you did by literally turning the wheel, and the thing would rotate to a different satellite in the sky. And I remember watching turning it on, the Monaco Grand Prix, I think from like 1998 was running. And I just thought it was so cool. These cars were loud, it just seemed really colorful and just really interesting. Not like anything I'd ever seen or watched before. Because I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, so primarily what people think of when they think of the US, or from my particular part of the US, which is Charlotte, which is just NASCAR. It's where like 95% of the NASCAR teams are based, is all within like 40 or 50 miles of where I was born. So to be like interested in Formula One made me really different when I was in school, because before F1's huge explosion, I really felt like I was completely alone as a Formula One fan in the US. I didn't have a lot of other people that wanted to talk about it with me. Like it was very, very rare that you would meet anybody that was knowledgeable at all or had any interest in watching it, because it was very difficult to watch in the US. It was not easy to watch. But I loved it, and I loved the excitement and the color and the speed and all those things. And then somewhere along the way, I kind of picked up a camera and really I didn't know how I could use the camera to get to car racing, but I knew that I loved photography. So I would take my camera to, anything that I could take it to, swimming events, football games at the college that I was going to, anything. And I just started building a portfolio. I started taking more pictures and going to more events. And I had a couple internships with two newspapers, one of them in my hometown in Charlotte, and then another in a small town in Kentucky where I was going to school for university. And through those newspapers, I was able to like kind of apply for smaller racing events. Like I went to a lawnmower race in North Carolina. And then I had a little bit of ability to go try and find other stuff that was kind of motorsport related through those newspapers, and just continued building a portfolio, but also people that I was meeting and could kind of give me an extra step past that. And so it just kind of snowballed to working in motorsport full time. And there's so many like different layers to the story, but basically I'm just a motorsport fan who somehow picked up a camera along the way and made it into a job.
Sounds very exciting
Yeah,
nonetheless.
yeah.
Like you said, you are a fan of motorsport, and that's how you got into it. What do you love most about motorsport as a fan?
So the thing I really love about motorsport is it's for everybody. Like if you go to a race, everybody has the same passion for racing. Like it doesn't matter who you support. It doesn't matter what team, what driver, like everybody's there because they want to be there. They want to experience that camaraderie, even if you're like, the only Logan Sargent fan in the grandstands, like you're still there because you love racing, and everybody at the races is there because they love racing. And from a photography perspective, I've always loved that racing embraces photography. Like if you wanted to go to a Champions League game or a golf match or a professional football match in the US or NBA, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You can't bring a camera. Like you're not allowed to bring cameras to these events. It doesn't matter even if it's like a small one, you can't bring cameras. And motorsport embraces photography, embraces that like side of being a fan, where everybody, if you look around, like especially if you're watching the broadcast from Japan,
Mm-hmm.
it's the grandstands are filled filled with hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of camera gear, and none of those people are accredited photographers with, a media vest and a media credential. Like they are all there they just brought their camera gear from home. And it's so cool to be able to have that shared passion for photography and racing, because there's two things that I love and have always loved. And so from a perspective, when I was building my portfolio and building my, you know, list of things that I wanted to cover and was able to cover, being able to go to racing events as a photographer, just a fan, bringing my camera was the best thing in the world, because I could go and experience the race that I wanted to go to, because I went to a lot of races as a fan. And I would bring my camera, and I loved being able to bring my camera and be able to document the experience and being able to share it. This was like the very early days of social media, like 2005, 6, 2010, like MySpace and like Facebook and stuff, like early Facebook, before Instagram was even around. But I was able to share some of my pictures with the very small network of people that was on social media. And as it grew, it grew, it grew, it grew. And then, you're still able to experience these races with people that have the same passions as you. And racing is really unique in that sense. And I think people forget that. Like, you can't just take a camera to some of these other events and expect to be allowed to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've been to quite a couple of races, and to all of them, I brought my DSLR camera as well. And like, it was just allowed. I never got asked, like, you're not allowed to share that or not allowed to share that as a fan. And I've seen, like, on social media for concerts and other sports events, indeed, that you're not either not allowed to bring them, or you're not allowed to use that for certain purposes.
Yeah.
And F1 and motorsports in general has that a lot less. And I feel like it's also because motorsport in itself can be niche, but at the same time there's it's so broad that there's like a space for everyone to create their content.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it never changes. Like, I have concerns that they're kind of slightly like going that way, where they want to control
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like, there was something that came out the other day about how they were basically like Drive to Survive and Netflix were limiting what content the teams can put out. And
Yeah.
I hope that it doesn't go that place for fans, because not that long ago, from a video side, you weren't allowed to, if you went to the grandstand at, Circuit of the Americas or Silverstone or Zandvoort or wherever it is, if you did a video from the grandstands and you put it on YouTube under Bernie Ecclestone's, honchos, they would literally come after you and send you a cease and
Mm-hmm.
desist for a video. And it got like, I think there was like this period where it wasn't as big of a deal, but then it's starting to be a big deal again. And I hope that they don't really start limiting the photography side of it, because it would be a real shame. And it's part of like what made motorsport so great, a long time ago, is
Mm-hmm.
everybody having these like cool old pictures of Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell, and some of those iconic moments that weren't just from credentialed photographers that had a media vest. So I
Yeah.
hope that they don't go that way. But yeah, I think any big business, they want to control everything, and the control side is what's going to get them in trouble.
Yeah, I think that like if they control it too much, like nowadays you see so many, especially on TikTok, you see so many creators going to races, sharing clips from the races and things like that. And I fear that if they start controlling it too much, then you lose, especially with Formula One at the moment, I fear that you lose them to other series such as WEC, IndyCar, INSA, NASCAR, Formula E, DTM, like anything other than Formula One, where it is still permitted to use that footage
Yeah.
as long as it's non-commercial, you know?
Yeah. It's a very weird world we live in, where there is so many cool content creators that are able to do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like frustrating from my perspective too, because I've used social media to leverage my own brand and sh not just leverage my own brand, but share my experiences in racing through social media. And there's a lot of things that I can't do. Like even from a Formula One perspective, we're not allowed to film anything in the paddock at
Mm-hmm.
all. Trackside, paddock, anywhere on the race grounds, we're not allowed to film it. Even if it's just a video of me, if there's something in the background that is in any way related to Formula One, they don't allow it. So
Mm-hmm.
it is really frustrating that from, there's two sides. Like, I'm so glad the content creators are able to do amazing things and be able to have the access and just go to races and film stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets huge reach on all the social media channels, but then the actual like journalists and photographers
Yeah.
and TV people aren't allowed to do anything. And
Yeah,
it's
but
weird.
even the fact that the teams aren't allowed
I know,
anymore,
I know.
that's what baffles me because personally, I loved watching McLaren Unboxed because
Yep,
it's a completely different type of content than what you see on Drive to Survive.
yep.
And I don't know if they want to change the type of content that comes out of Drive to Survive now that it's relatively popular, but also it made the sport a lot more popular around the world. But if they don't do that and you just completely lose the content type of content that you get from something such as McLaren Unbox, I feel like it's going to be a loss for the series itself. And personally, like I love to see the more techie side that the McLaren Unboxed showed rather than the drama that was created in or shown in Drive to Survive.
I agree. I mean, I think ultimately it's going to take it's going to take the teams and the fans really speaking up about this. It's going to take people like putting their money where their mouth is and saying like, I'm not going to attend Formula One races anymore because I don't like the way that the sport is going or the ticket prices or the
I
access that
mean,
you're giving
I
us.
will I will gladly talk about that because for 3 Formula E race weekends, I'm off cheaper than for one Formula One race weekend last
Yeah.
year, and the price of that race weekend for the same exact grandstand tickets already went up with like 75 euros.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there as a fan, a long time ago. Like my first race was in 2005 that I went to as a fan. And I went by myself to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in 2010, and
Hmm.
my 3-day general admission ticket was 90 euros, I think. So yeah, I mean, it's the best value for money right now is not in Formula One, but
No,
it's gonna take the fans saying something about it and really doing something about it, and it's gonna take the teams saying we want to be able to reach our fans in different ways that this isn't a competition, a direct competition with Drive to Survive. And I hope that they see that. Unfortunately, there's, the almighty dollar always,
yeah,
makes people have they just don't see it other than dollar signs
yeah, and I feel like you definitely noticed that a lot recently.
massively.
But I mean, Liberty has now also acquired MotoGP, so I'm
Yep.
curious to see how that will go. Like, I think it will help the sport grow at first, just like Formula One did. But I think we see Formula One viewership plateauing at the moment, and I think that at some point that will also happen with MotoGP. What now that it's acquired by Liberty Media? Like at
Potentially,
first,
but I think Formula One's problem is that the competition isn't very good.
yeah, but
And
if we talk about that, the same thing could be said about the many years of Mercedes domination and about the years where we had Red Bull domination back in Seb's days.
right, but that was pre Drive to Survive. So
Yeah.
when Drive to Survive, like I think what will happen, I don't think MotoGP, like anybody that watches racing knows that MotoGP is the best racing on earth. Like it is insane. And it's amazing that they can get the kind of battles that they do out of these insane bikes, but there's not enough like MotoGP is kind of where F1 was in the late 2000s, like 2005 to 2010. Like I think MotoGP is in that kind of era right now where they don't have big engagement or viewership in the United States. They do have it. They do have a good core like viewership in the US, but they don't have that like fringe where you walk down the street. Like now I'll walk down the street and I'll just see somebody at a restaurant wearing, a Max Verstappen hat. I'm like, this would blow my mind if I was in, a kid in school. I'd be like, oh my God, another Formula One fan. But now I think MotoGP, what will happen is if they can make it look as interesting as it actually is, because the championship and the racing is so good, it might not have that tail off that Formula One is having currently. But it's an amazing, like what Netflix and Drive to Survive has done should be studied in every marketing school in the world for how to show and be engaged in a championship and how to promote a championship through organic marketing. And it costs you almost nothing.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting to me. Also, if I compare it like with the way that Formula E markets itself, because I currently have most of my interest with Formula E and to see how that grows. And I noticed like Formula E, we've had 5 races, and each race has been won by a different driver from a different team. And there are four different powertrain manufacturers
Yeah.
that have won those races. But I remember like there was this interview from the CEO, Jeff Dodds, where he made a bet that if Max didn't win the championship, that he would donate money. But because it involved Formula One, a lot of Formula One fans immediately started with spewing hate on Formula E without having even watched Formula E.
Yeah.
And I get why they do it, but it's also a marketing tactic. And any engagement is good engagement, even if it's bad engagement, because it's still engagement and it's still being talked about. And that definitely makes people more interested in what do they actually do.
Yeah.
And
That's
I've seen
interesting.
more people being interested in Formula E because of what happened.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, what's the old line is all press is good press, doesn't it? Even if it's
Yeah,
bad press.
exactly.
I
But
think that was a
yeah,
funny moment because we interviewed us, or we sat with him like a week of 2 weeks before that. That we had also a little bit of insight of like what's the series wants and etc. So it was so funny that people were like saying stuff. I was like, you don't know anything because one, you didn't even try to look things up.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you just listened to our podcast, you would have no stuff what they are trying to do. But that was
Yeah.
so funny.
yeah, and especially with like I know Formula One now has F1 Academy, and that each team has to support a driver in F1 Academy. However, I feel with some of those, it's more that they are not forced, but like that they are
Yeah.
mandatory to
Yeah.
have those drivers in those series.
Yeah.
Whereas for example, with Alpine, they supported Abby Pulling for years,
Yeah.
and they have had her in the garage during the F1 debrief moments. And with some other teams, you don't really see them getting them together when it would be great marketing. But Formula E, for example, has Girls on Track. They've done that for years. They used to do it like at half of the races. This year they made it so that that there's events happening at all of the races instead of just half. And it not only promotes women in motorsport, but it just gets more girls to be shown what being in STEM is like, and to get them more interested in STEM, because with age, less and less girls get interested in STEM, and it's good to keep that stimulated, to keep them interested, and to show them different ways they can be involved either in motorsport, but in STEM subjects, just all in general.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about the F1 Academy and Formula W series. Like I'm I have been able to work with some of the fastest drivers on earth, and some of them are women. And it's amazing to me that it doesn't like the F1 Academy, it does feel like it's a forced it doesn't feel natural, and it doesn't feel like if these teams actually wanted to do something real about putting girls and women in cars, like they could easily do it. I mean, how long was Jamie Chadwick a part of, or is still a part of the Williams
Mm-hmm.
development program, and was never put in a Formula One car, not once, like literally
Exactly.
not once. And I we have no idea. Like she absolutely dominated everyone in the W series multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And Williams never put her in a car for a test. They never put her in a car for a practice session. It blows my mind. And I really like Dorian Pin is somebody that is a driver that I've been able to work with pretty extensively through Lamborghini's program in
Mm-hmm.
sports car racing. And she is the real deal. Like
Yep.
she is a very, very fast racing driver. Like forget like sex being a part of it. She's a very fast racing driver. And the fact that she's part of the Mercedes team gives me hope that they will actually do something about it. Like it would be incredible to put her in a car for a practice session and see what she can actually do, because it's not fair when you have the W series and F1 Academy putting these girls up, in cars that are like they have no power steering like up until Formula 2, I think. And then you're expecting them to show equal performance against like guys, and it's just not fair for what they have to do. And it really annoys me that these teams don't actually put their money where their mouths are, where they put these programs together. Like, give one of these female drivers 50 grand and they can run Le Mans. And but they don't. So I don't
I
know.
mean, Dorian Pa does.
She does, and there are others, but you could put Alice Powell or any of the girls in a Mercedes for the 24 hours of Le Mans. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not happening as far as I know. So
Yeah. It's what, like, when I was researching the rookie test from Formula E a few weeks ago, maybe months ago, I was like looking at one from, I think, 2020 or something, and there was like 4 or 5 rookies that were women that were testing out the cars. And at the same time, there was still drivers like Arthur Leclerc also in that same test session. But you just, and Alice Powell has been such an important part for Envision, for their development and their testing. But I'm like, put her in that Envision for a rookie test in Gen 3. She's done it in other generations of the car. Why not give her a try in the Gen 3 car as well?
yeah.
I mean, they've had the speed record of the acceleration record in the Gen Beta car. It was that was breaking the Formula One acceleration
Hmm.
record. That was set by a woman. So they do try to give the chances to women, but let the teams also show that with their rookie tests.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't do like
Yeah,
something about it.
because last year I also was a bit disappointed to see that Formula E didn't have like women in their rookie sessions.
Yeah.
And I was
I
like,
mean, they had, I believe, Porsche had
yeah, but
Silvana
that
de
was already a new
Silvestro.
season.
No, but also in one of the rookie tests, they had Silvana de Silvestro. And then
I
with
thought
the
that it
test
was in
with,
Valencia.
no, that was another woman. I don't remember her name. That was another woman that tested there. But
I hope so, because I was
Porsche had
very disappointing last year.
Porsche had Simona de Silvestro in one of their rookie tests and had another woman in their Valencia testing drive Antonio Felix da Costa's car at some point. So Porsche did
Anyway.
have
I'm
a
not
woman.
sure. I know, but I
I
don't
think-
know if that was this season, last season. But
Well, either way, I think it's time that all the teams across all
Yes.
series like start
Yeah.
doing. If they can talk about it all day, but like I'm not dumb. Like until
No.
you actually put a woman in a car for a practice session or a rookie test in a Formula One car, or you know, a MotoGP bike or whatever it is, like I don't care, but start actually doing something about it.
Yeah. I believe Abby Pulling has tested the Alpine at Silverstone before.
So,
At least I remember seeing something, or like an older Alpine at Silverstone. From what I remember.
and there's so many restrictions on what year of car they can use, but I
Yeah.
know who was it? Who was it that tested the Aston Martin? There was
Jessica Hawkins.
yeah, Jessica Hawkins. And even that, like they wouldn't disclose the testing times, but they were all like the engineers were very like impressed. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, great, but like if you want to actually do this, like
Then
give us the times.
put her in one of the FP1s that have to be driven by someone who hasn't driven and hasn't driven at least 2 F1 races or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
I mean the
put her in the
TV
test.
coverage, like if I mean that's what ultimately all these sponsors want is TV coverage. All you have to do is put any of the like if you put Dorian like not that he would, but if Lewis Hamilton stepped aside for a practice session and said, "All right, let's put Dorian in the car."
Honestly, I could genuinely see Lewis doing that because from what I've seen, he's the only driver that's actually interested in how the girls are developing. Like he's shown up to the paddock last year when they were in Austin to chat to the drivers there, but also with the podiums.
Yeah, he's there. I mean,
He's there. Like you can sometimes see. I heard that some of the other drivers apparently showed up, but we didn't see them show up. So I'm not sure if that actually happened.
yeah, I don't I know that when Jamie Chadwick when was she last in the W Series? It would have been 2022, I think.
2023, because it was half
2023.
or 2020. No,
I think it
wait,
was
no.
I think it was
No,
22 because
2022.
she did
To
IndyCar
22,
or
yeah.
Indy Next in 23. But I know when she won the championship in Austin, the Williams, both the Williams drivers were there to congratulate her, and I know that a couple other drivers were there to congratulate her. But I do think it's like, you know, it's on somebody like Lewis. Not that like Lewis doesn't have to prove anything to anybody,
No.
but I would love for him to be if again, I know that he does genuinely support this movement, but it's going to take somebody like Lewis stepping out of the car for a practice session and saying, "You guys have as much data as you're going to get out of me for this shit box that you've built. Like, let's put Dorian in the car and let her run and like let's see how this goes because I know she's done the simulator. I know she's capable of winning races and I know she's capable of like I know that because I have seen the data. I have worked around her. I know that she is capable of it and she needs to be given that seat time to actually do it. And I can almost promise you if somebody put one of these girls in a car, the TV coverage would be insane. Like basically the TV cameras would not stop following that car. And isn't that what ultimately the sponsors want? Like
Yeah.
I don't
You would
understand
think
like
so.
I really like don't understand how that some of these racing teams and series don't see like there has to be something that I don't know because it seems really really obvious to me.
I mean, from what we were told is like only like a few percent out of the millions and millions of FIA licenses have been given to women. And I also know like you have to have a certain amount of super license points to be able to drive the FP1, I believe.
Yeah, but
And
then their super
that might
license point system is like complete
yeah, but
bollocks anyway.
that's a whole different story because the fact that Max has to pay so much purely because he won the championship with so much, Like
I don't
Red
know.
Bull
Like
will
that's not even the
like
problem I have with
no,
it
but
because it's like a
that's
tax.
say it's the same with like IndyCar drivers barely getting any super
Yeah,
license
it's
points.
insane. But you could win a championship in an LMP2 car and basically get the equivalent amount of super license points as you do getting like third in IndyCar, driving a much more difficult car in a
Yeah.
much more difficult series. But that's just how the
The
FIA treats
whole
everybody.
the whole super license points system should just be changed, in my opinion. The way it works is just bullcrap. I know that like when Logan was in 2022, when Logan had to come like sixth in the championship in F2 to be able to actually drive in the Williams the year after, because otherwise he wouldn't have
Yeah.
enough super license points. And I'm like, I get why Williams had to go with him because they didn't have any other drivers available. But imagine if Logan did not get the points he had to get.
Yeah.
What would they have done then?
I mean,
And
I
that's
would
purely
still,
because of the super license points.
I mean, there was that big argument going on last year about Colton Herta, and I've
Yeah.
also worked with Colton Herta, and like people's argument was, well, he's never won an IndyCar championship. It's like, so?
So just because you don't win a championship does not mean you're a bad driver.
No, I mean, there's some of the most talented drivers on the planet in that series, and it's just like F1, where there's some people in the series that probably shouldn't be there, and there's some people in F1 that probably shouldn't be there, and
We have that everywhere.
I can promise you that Colton, if you put him in, you know, a midfield car, he'd be midfield, which is the car. Like,
Yeah. Like
I don't know.
people,
There's just a
I
lot of
remember
ignorant
like
people.
past like with after the Australian Grand Prix, there was this argument going around like, oh yeah, if Max doesn't have the car, then he doesn't put it on the podium. He had a gearbox, he had a car issue. A mechanical issue you can't exactly compare to the way that the car and driver work together. I
Yeah.
always say like at least for like a charity race or something, like in summer break or like somewhere in a gap, put all of the drivers in like a lawnmower or equally powered
But I tell you what, the best race in the whole world would be if you put all these drivers in a Mazda MX-5 Cup car. Like for Mazda, I don't know if you've been able to watch any of the Mazda MX-5 races at Daytona. It
No.
is it is actually at any racetrack because it's a support series for the IMSA WeatherTech series, and literally everybody in the media center, we will stop what we're doing and we'll watch the last 10 laps of these races because they have no aerodynamics. They are literally just a car with a roll hoop, and they are going five wide into the last corner, and the guy that's in sixth is the one that wins because it's incredible racing. And we literally all stop what we're doing and watch these races because it's so much fun to watch it, and
Yeah.
they're banging and bumping and like just literally just nose to tail going slowly, but that doesn't matter how fast they're going. Like, it is such
I
fun
don't
racing.
care about the speed
Yeah.
if the excitement is there.
If you put all the F1 drivers in a Mazda MX-5 Cup car, it would be the best race ever. Like, literally
Yeah,
the
but
best
like
race ever.
put them just like all of them in the same machinery, like same power, same everything. Like no worrying about pit stops or whatever.
Yeah.
No worrying about driving into each other either. And see who comes out on top. Then you can really see like, oh yeah, this is a talented driver, that's a talented driver.
Yeah.
Even if the cars don't suit their driving abilities.
I mean, they used to
Like
do the BMW M1 series F1 races, and unfortunately, it's like now everything's so commercialized, you won't ever see anything like this happen because Lewis Hamilton will never put himself in a Mazda. He will never put himself in one of these cars because it's such a conflict of interest with all his contracts and things.
yeah.
But like when they used to do these celebrity races or like a celebrity race, I mean they did it at Monaco where they put these guys in like BMW M1s and just, all right, everybody race, good luck, and it was great
Yeah.
racing.
But like that's a thing, like I think that if Formula One were to do anything like that, it would be just it would
It would be
be
better than the
great.
real race.
Yeah, pretty
And then
much.
the problem would be that it looks bad for Formula One, and so they won't do it.
Probably.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, everyone always says Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport, and
It's not.
engineering wise, it might be. But like I always say, like things like Le Mans and IndyCar and Formula E, racing wise, drivers' likability in some points, the way that drivers act with each other, things like that in other series, in my opinion, are much more enjoyable and also make me want to watch the series more, even if I don't understand anything about it.
I mean, I
I want
think
to learn while watching.
realistically, F1 might not even be top five best racing series in the world. Actually, it's probably, I know that it's not top five.
I
So
mean, I would put IMSA there, I would put WEC there, I would put IndyCar there,
Formula E,
MotoGP, Formula
MotoGP,
E,
supercars,
Supercar,
yeah,
DTM,
NASCAR.
NASCAR. So like Formula One is like somewhere near the bottom.
Yeah, it's toward the bottom, but like as an engineering, thing to make, it is amazing, but it's
Yeah,
definitely, I don't know, I still have like more respect for not respect, but like I have more admiration and amazement that they can get a V6 turbo with a hybrid engine to last 24 hours without stopping it. Like it never
yeah,
turns off. And I think that that's to
yeah. And
me more incredible
if there's brakes on the car, they will just fix it and then
in
continue
40 seconds.
driving. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I love Formula One. I've always loved Formula One, but like I know that it's not the best racing on earth. I know that it's not the the best drivers on earth. Like there's a couple of them that are the best drivers on earth, and the rest of them you could exchange with, Shane Van
Pretty much any.
Gisbergen or Scott McLaughlin or Joseph Newgarden or, you know, Kyle Larson or, put Valentino Rossi. Like I would love to see Valentino Rossi in an open wheel car. I think it'd be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we at first we get to see him in WEC at the moment, which
Yeah.
is already incredible.
Yeah.
I love the WRT team anyway, but that's because of Robin. But I started to love all of the other drivers in that team as well, purely because of how incredible their races are.
Yeah.
Like you you have a Ferrari who out of nowhere loses their rear wing and then they just continue racing and you have like Peugeot saying, "Oh, can we borrow that?" Like things like
No.
that don't happen in Formula One,
No.
not as easily
No.
at
No, they don't.
least. But yeah, we've talked a lot about controversial topics and stuff in motorsport, but what does a typical race weekend for you look like?
Um, it depends on the race. So with a lot of the races, there's like a big shot list that the team or I work for an agency that covers the entire season. I don't cover every race. But the agency that I work for covers every race. So there's at least four of us at every F1 race. And so there are two teams that this agency supplies images for, as well as a bunch of commercial sponsors and editorial outlets. So we're doing a lot of different things at each race. Like we'll cover the race weekend as a race weekend. Like even though Lewis Hamilton doesn't have any, commercial, we don't have any commercial need to cover Lewis Hamilton. Editorially, we still have to cover Lewis Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll document it obviously from like a very like broad spectrum level, and then kind of like we'll we'll get what we need from the teams as far as what they need to see from each race weekend. There'll be different sponsors on the car, or there'll be guests in the garage, pit lane walks, stuff like that. So a lot of our races aren't as exciting as people think that they would be. Like it's not always about race cars. It's not always about taking pictures of race cars. That's the fun part. The hard work is stuff that no one would ever want to see. Like it's taking pictures of empty tables. It's like kind of like being a wedding photographer in some ways, where you're documenting like a space that's empty for Rolex, and Rolex needs to see the way the table linen, what color the table linens they chose for that weekend, and uh the silverware and where the plants were and all that stuff that any photographer that's done any kind of event coverage knows that is just part of it. But it goes all the way to the Formula One level where, yeah, you take pictures of practice 1 and 2 and 3 and qualifying in the race, but then between those sessions, you're doing pit lane walks. So we'll start our day pretty early, usually like 7 to 8 a.m. We'll be at the track, and then we'll probably be leaving the track around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So it's usually about 12 hours for an F1 race. I actually really enjoy F1 races because the actual work day is a lot shorter than my normal sports car stuff. So sports car racing, like we'll start on track stuff at 8 a.m. and then we'll have a night practice that goes till 9:30 p.m. Or like at Le Mans, if you've ever been to Le Mans, basically they do a practice session that ends at midnight, which is incredibly inconvenient for your sleep schedule. But F1 races, as far as a workload goes, are not as intense as some of the other races that I do. But you still get to enjoy it. Like, there's things that are pretty mundane and you just kind of you're like, oh my God, this is boring. But then there's like huge, it's kind of like, I don't know, being like a soldier where there's, big moments of boredom and then even bigger moments of like adrenaline. You're chasing drivers around trying to get the shot as Lewis climbs out of the car or Max climbs out of the car. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Sounds very interesting, and
Yeah.
especially that you have like such big differences between different motorsport series.
Yeah, and you really have to be able to do a lot, like as a motorsport photographer and in Formula One especially, you have to be able to do so many different types of photography. Like you're mixing extreme sports with event coverage, product for like photography. Like I've done photo shoots of, a new sneaker tennis shoe line that a team is uh has in partnership with a new brand, and there's like maybe a motor oil can that you have to photograph sitting on top of a tire on the front nose, and you're working around when the team has the car ready. So you'll kind of like stand there. You're told to be there at 1 o'clock p.m. for a photo shoot with like a can of motor oil or sneakers or something, and they won't have the car ready until 15 minutes before the practice session, an hour later, and they're working on something, they're working on the setup. And obviously, the actual competition side takes major precedence over the marketing side, but you still have to do it because you still have to make the sponsors happy. So you end up like standing around kind of waiting for your 5 minutes to shoot a product sitting on the car. And then you take the pictures, and then you're like, okay, well, that was really boring. I guess we'll go shoot a practice session now. And then like as soon as the practice session ends, you have to go do a pit lane walk where you're literally a wedding photographer. Like, okay, everybody gather around, everybody get close to each other. Okay, here's the steering wheel to hold. Okay, everybody smile. And then you feel like an idiot. And then you turn back around and you go back for practice too. And then you're doing like, slow pans of the cars going by. And then you go back and do it all over again. And so you're really mixing a lot of different types of photography into one job on one day. It's very challenging in that sense.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely good for those who are possibly wanting to get into motorsport photography to know like maybe they can already start practicing with some of these, even if it's on a basic small scale,
Yep.
just
I
to know
mean,
like where the where their strengths lay and where they can practice more.
yeah, you have to be a people person to be a motorsport photographer because there's a lot of very good photographers that won't ever make a living out of motorsport photography. They get to the track and they just think that it's all about doing the really slow pan shots or maybe getting a nice candid of Max walking through the paddock, but that's the easy part. And
Mhm.
it's being able to develop those relationships. You have to be comfortable putting a group of people together for a group photo outside of the garage. You can't be shy, that's for sure. It makes it a lot harder if you're really uncomfortable, engaging with people. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it makes it a lot harder because a lot of the more challenging events that we have to cover on the Formula One calendar or in sports car racing or Formula E, NASCAR, like all of that stuff, it's all the same. It doesn't, just because it's NASCAR doesn't mean that like there's not still guest photography and product photography and race car photography that you have to do. Yeah, it's really challenging.
It does sound very interesting to me. But so, do you have any other tips for people who want to do what you are doing?
Yeah, I mean the thing that I always tell people is use what we were talking about earlier on, where you have this access to racing. Like it doesn't have to be a Formula One race that you bring your camera to. In fact, like I strongly recommend that it not be a Formula One race you bring your camera to if you really want to do this as a professional or you want to get better at it. The lower level series events are far better access, far better value. You don't have to spend $1,000 for a general admission ticket and maybe potentially have your lens size limited by the track. Because I know a lot of Formula One events limit the lens size that you can bring. But they're, as far as I know, like most of the other events that we would go to on a normal calendar year with IMSA WeatherTech or IndyCar, NASCAR, like there's no limitations on what you can bring as far as the lens goes. So, going to small club championships or track days, like the smaller the better because you'll be able to hone your craft, be able to do photography in a fun way without being limited by the access that you have. And then also on top of that, you're, wanting to make the most out of your Formula One weekend because you paid so much for it. There's a like an added pressure to that, I guess. With Formula One, like I love Formula One, but you get so little track time with Formula One cars on track. Like even in Japan, a bunch of the cars, like neither Red Bull even set a time during the second practice session. So, all these Red Bull fans paid a shitload of money for them to not see a Red Bull turn a lap in practice too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like there's, if you go to the 24 hours of Le Mans or 24 hours of Daytona or Nürburgring or Spa, like they're doing almost like 12 hours of practice before a 24-hour race even starts. So it's like 30 hours of track time just with the 24 hours of Le Mans cars that are running in the 24 hours of Le Mans. And you can't beat that. Like it's really hard to beat that as a spectator, having the ability to just practice for that amount of time makes it a lot less pressure when you do go to events like Formula One, where you're way more comfortable taking pictures of those cars at speed because it takes a long time. It takes me time to get used to the speed of Formula One cars, even when I haven't seen them in a couple weeks. It's like very jarring the first time they come by. I remember standing at the exit of the tunnel in Monaco last year, and the first 10 minutes of the session, I was honestly like just trying to wrap my head around how fast these cars were coming out of the tunnel. And it's really like it's kind of mind-blowing, and it takes a minute for you to really grasp that speed and then to translate that into here's what I need to do with my camera and settings and lens and where I need to point the lens at and hit the shutter at the right time. It's very jarring. So when you have the ability to practice on other cars for a longer period of time, it's not as jarring when you get to Formula One, when you have that ability and you have that technical ability within yourself to do it. So just go to small events is always the best advice that I have.
And it's also, in my opinion, sometimes even better worth of your money, as you said, like
For
a
sure.
lot more track time, but also a lot more accessibility. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been to several Formula One events now, and I'm like, I prefer to go to series like Formula E and DTM. I wish I could go to WEC this year. Sadly, not possible, but for example, I'm planning to go to ELMS um, near the end of the summer just because of the accessibility and also like the price to price ratio to what you actually get and what you can do and the experience itself. I've noticed that at smaller events, the fans tend to band together more and are more welcoming to teach others about it. Like, yes, you have that still with Formula One, but in Formula One, especially like with the Dutch fans, I see often that they're like, yeah, you don't support Max or one of the drivers we like or likes Max, then we don't like to chat as much with you.
Yeah.
Whereas, for example, with going to Spa, I had like Valtteri fans near me, I had Lewis fans near me, I had Max fans, and all of that near me, and we just chatted occasionally with each other and just
Yeah.
enjoyed and had fun, you know?
It turns
So
into a little bit of like too much like I don't want to say it's like the World Cup where you just hate
no, but yeah,
people
it
that
does.
aren't like like your team, but kind of. And it
It
can be
does.
fun in that sense where you have this camaraderie with people like you, but it doesn't help you broaden your horizons at all.
Yeah, whereas with what I've noticed, like I've had people ask me questions about Formula 2 and Formula 3 because we were cheering so loudly for them, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, why are you cheering for them?" You know? And we explained like, "Oh yeah, this and this driver we're cheering for because they did this and this, or because of that and that." And I feel like also with series like Fracas or Formula E or anything that's like more accessible than Formula One, you get that a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun as a photographer, like just t bringing your camera to the smaller events. You just get better access, and it's just a more relaxed environment
Yeah, and also getting to know more about what you're actually shooting
for sure.
gets easier. But yeah, so I see Jamie wants to ask something.
Yes. Um, do you have any goals regarding motorsport? Is there stuff you still want to do, or
Yeah, I think like my biggest like bucket list events, I've always wanted to cover the Bathurst 1000 supercars race. Like to me, it's one of the greatest racetracks in the world, one of the best races in the world. The passion from the fans, just incredible. Another one that I've always wanted to do would be the Isle of Man TT races. Like I just have such a high admiration and passion for bike racing that I just would love to experience what the TT is about, even though I don't ride motorcycles myself, but I can still appreciate what these, lunatics do on a motorcycle. I think it's one of the last true, like, raw motorsport events in the world. But yeah, those two would probably be like the tip of the like the really the big ones that I want to check off my bucket list because I've been very fortunate to have done so many different amazing racing events. I've done the Monaco Grand Prix many times. I've done, you know, a fair bit of the Formula One calendar. I haven't done every race on the Formula One calendar, but I've done a lot of them. Um, I've done Le Mans many times. I've done the Indy 500. I've done the Daytona 500. There's just some really cool events that I've been able to see and experience from not just a fan perspective, because I am soaking it in as a fan still, not just as like, oh, I have to be here for work. I can still appreciate what it is that I'm seeing. But yeah, Bathurst and the TT would be pretty special to be able to do. And I know that I'll be able to do it one day, just maybe not this year, but one day that's the plan.
I mean, that sounds like very exciting goals, and especially with what you've already done, it's very sounds fun, like fun.
Yeah, I want to like
Moments.
that's really the biggest thing that I chase now is because a lot of the events that I have done, it's not that it's not that I don't appreciate it, but I want to enjoy the event that I'm going to. I want to experience it as, like you would if you were a true fan going for the first time. And that's what it still is for me is I'm a true fan being able to go and experience the world-class racing events and see these drivers and see these cars and bikes doing what they do best, and still be able to show that passion for racing, because ultimately that's what my job is being able to share my passion for racing with other people through photography. Like that's why you hire photographers to do something, is so that they can share their experience with others through, whatever it is that we document. So being paid to go experience those things and be able to share them with, even if it's on just for social media, it's an honor that people call on me to do that, but it's something that I take very seriously, that when I go to an event, I want to enjoy it. Like I want to experience it and I want to enjoy it, because that makes the pictures better. That makes the experience for me better, and it translates into the photography as well.
Definitely agree. Because once you don't have passion or enjoyment in what you do anymore, it's a lot easier to get burnout and
Yeah.
get negative health effects of it. That's always something that I look for as a health sciences student, but I always feel like, yeah, it's important to keep passion
Yeah.
about what you're doing
Yeah.
and to,
Because it can wear on you really quickly. Like the travel, the days away from home, it can be really challenging for your mental
Mhm.
health, your physical health, like all those things that people struggle with if they don't love it. Like if you don't love car racing, this is not the job for you.
Yeah, definitely agree. Is there someone you look? Oh, nope, that's not the one I wanted. Do you have any driver interactions with that you just always keep in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to like get to know, like not as I know still some of the Formula One drivers, like Kevin Magnussen and I are still
Mhm.
pretty friendly. Kevin ran for a season in IMSA WeatherTech, and he hired me to do his photography that year. Um, he ran as teammate to Renger van der Zand. So Renger and I have been very close for a long time. And when he teamed up with Renger for Chip Ganassi Racing, the two of them hired me to do the photography for them. So I still, like, when I see Kevin at a race, we'll talk because we have kids that are about the same age, and it's fun to be able to catch up with him just on like, not even on a, hey, you're doing great this year, or can't wait to see you back in sports cars. Like, but we talk as human beings, just as two dads, basically. Um, I know Nico Hulkenberg a little bit, know Checo Perez a little bit, just from having worked with them over the years. But a lot of the really closer drivers that I'm friends with are from sports car racing. Like I said, Renger and I have some funny stories of me and Renger. Um, and it's like Kamui Kobayashi is another good friend of mine. I've had some amazing memories that I'll be able to look back on, you know, at the end of my career, and be able to say that I worked with these guys when they were at their peak. Like this was the best that they ever were. Yeah, it's like I always tell people, drivers are just human beings that do
Yeah,
something exceptional, like exceptionally rare and unique. Like driving a race car at that level is not a talent that everybody has. But at the end of the day, as soon as they climb out of the car, they're just people. And they want to have fun, they want to laugh, they want to be able to share a beer, go for dinner, and not talk about car racing all the time. Like we do talk about car racing a lot. And that is a lot of our shared passion. But at the end of the day, we're all friends because we travel together. We sit next to each other on planes. We're in the hotel lobby. We just have funny memories that you have over the years that, you just make just because you're around people for a very long time and a significant part of the year.
yeah. I mean, that's the driver interactions that I most like to see, like the ones that are genuine connections and not just the like superficial connections
Yeah, I mean,
where
but
it's
like
just
that,
car racing, car racing, car racing.
but like the sad part is no one will ever see it, because they can't even like see the stuff that you know, like I have a memory of me and Renger at the Sebring 12 hour. It must have been like 2019, I think, during the first World Endurance Championship and IMSA weekend that they did for Super Sebring. And I remember the team that Renger was driving for in the 12 hour, they owed me a favor, so they let me stay in uh the RV, the camper van with Renger. So like I know Renger really well. And before they offered to let me stay in the RV with him, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. We'll both be on the same schedule because we're both doing the WEC and IMSA weekend stuff." And so I remember it was like really late one night. It was like almost midnight, and the two of us were in this RV, and we couldn't find the light switch to turn the lights off, and so we're both walking around in our underwear trying to find the light switch to turn off the and like literally we're both just in our underwear like where's the light switch for this thing? You can't like, and the lights, we could not find it for like 15 minutes, but we were hitting every light switch possible. And you can't put that on TV. Like you can't like just so it's stuff like that that I will always have really fond memories of just being friends with some of these guys. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I feel like often a lot of fans put drivers up on pedestals and treat them like they're gods almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like treating them just like human beings. Like I had a conversation with Nick Cassidy in Rome last year about the weather.
Yeah, Nick is hilarious too. He's
So
very
I'm
funny.
like, I love and the way he has been showing his Cascam videos, again, like we s- we see a different side of him,
Yeah.
and those types of interactions of drivers with either media but also with people who work in the sport and stuff like that. That's what I like more than hearing them babbling on about car racing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like I know it's very interesting for me to watch like a series like Drive to Survive and I see the personalities on Drive to Survive, but then I know that personality or that person in real life and the PR side that they feed to the journalists, the magazines, the TVs, like the interviews. I see that and I don't even see the person that I know because as soon, like literally the second that the TV turns off, they'll turn around and say something to you that's completely off color or something that you
Yeah.
cannot, like, you can't print this because he's talking shit about the car or, shit about one of his teammates or whatever it is, like in sports car racing. I have literally heard it all. And as soon as the TV camera's off, they'll turn around to you and just drop F-bombs and you're just laughing, the two of you, about like the qualifying lap. But he can't say that on a TV. He can't say that in
No.
the interview. Um, yeah, it's like I was able to spend a lot of time with Fernando Alonso between in his like sports car part of his career.
Hmm.
And he's hilarious. Like the guy is absolutely hilarious. And you can't you can't put in print half the stuff that he says because he would never be able to drive a race car again. So it's
Yeah.
yeah. I love that side of the drivers because they're humans. They're people,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like they're humans, first of all, they're race drivers second.
Yeah,
Unless it's Max Verstappen who just is
just
racing all the
drives.
time.
Yeah,
Even when
I
there's
don't
not even when there's not a race weekend, he's driving in some form.
I mean, I really have spent zero time with Max. Like I was there when he drove the Macau Grand Prix in 2014, I think, before he became a Formula One driver. I think he'd been signed as a Formula One driver for the 2015 season.
Yeah.
So it would have been November 2014, and that was the first time I ever met him or worked with him. And I've basically been around documenting his career at least a couple times a year, every year since then. And he's like the most diehard racer. Like to be honest, I'm not sure that he has a personality outside of car racing, but I don't
His
know him at
cats.
yeah. I don't know him at all outside of car racing. I know people that do know him. But I mean, I'm a fan of most of the drivers. Like I really love the sport for the sport, not just because of a
Hmm.
driver. But I'm very thankful to have been around for a significant part of Lewis's dominance, like all of his Mercedes dominance, for Max's entire career from, Formula 3 in Macau to, his rookie year at Toro Rosso and all the way ever since then.
Yeah, it's very incredible. Like to me, 2018 feels like 2, 3 years ago, but it's
I
like
know.
already 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm like baffled that I've been watching Formula One for so long.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
it's insane, and it baffles me because like how I remember like especially the 2017 season where you had like first you had Kvyat and Car I believe it was 2017 where you had Kvyat and Carlos at Toro Rosso,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden Carlos was going to Renault, so I believe either Brendan Hartley or Pierre Gasly first got put in that car, and then Pierre drove a Formula E race and the other one got put in the car, and then Kvyat got kicked out and Pierre and Brendan were together in the car, and that whole season like that was so chaotic but so interesting just to see like how it was going,
Yeah,
and then also the development like with cars and who was moving and how often there was driver changes. It baffled me that there was none this year.
I know. Yeah, it's really weird
So yeah,
and
it's
abnormal.
I think for certain drivers we might see the end of them coming, but purely because they want to stop racing instead of the teams wanting to get rid of them.
But then
More
you also have people I wish the teams would get rid of them.
yeah. You've got both of them, but
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that we see people leave because they want to start to focus on their family or try other racing series rather than the teams wanting to see drivers leave, except in some cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to see it all develop.
Yep. That's honestly the most interesting part of Formula One is not what happens on track, it's everything else.
Yep, pretty much. I'd ra there's more. I remember like around Jeddah or Bahrain, there was more stuff happening off track to report on than what actually happened on track,
Yep.
except for a car that maybe caught on fire.
Yeah.
So I always wonder, like, people watch motorsport for different reasons, and when they watch a race from home or something, they look for different things. What is something you always see yourself looking for when watching any type of motorsport?
I'm usually looking for like where the light is really nice. Like if I'm watching a 24-hour race or an endurance event from another, series, I'll be kind of like, ooh, the light's really nice out at turn 12. I really hope somebody's out there right now taking cool pictures. Or, I'm envisioning like because the tracks that you see on TV are very different to what we see in person, and not even in person like from the grandstands, but from a trackside level. Like Monaco is always one of those places that um the TV coverage does not do it justice.
Nope.
Like the width of the track is incredibly narrow, and then add to that, the run from Sandoval up to Casino Square is really, really, really steep to the point where it is not a fun walk to do when
No.
you're carrying
We did
camera gear.
we did it backwards this year, well, last year, where we went to Monaco for Formula E, and we
Hmm.
didn't even go down from Casino Square to Sandevot because we stopped at Casino Square and we were like, yeah, we're walking back the other way.
Yeah, it like I had to run from the grid up halfway up Casino Square this past year in 2023, and I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Like I'm in pretty good shape, and I thought I was gonna have a heart attack at the top of Casino Square after running up that hill. And you basically get kicked off the grid at the 5 minute to go like siren. So they have like the siren that'll go off for 5 minutes before they roll
Mm.
off for the formation lap. And so that's when they kick all the photographers and media off. And so that's when I left and I was like, holy shit, like this is a long run to do in a very short amount of time with a serious amount of elevation. And it's one of those tracks that it just doesn't do it justice. So, like to back to your
No,
question, I'll be watching a race somewhere else and I'll know the corners that my photographer friends are at or I know how their race is going. Like, with 5 or 8 laps to go, I'll know that all my friends are coming back in from trackside areas to go to the podium. They're sending pictures. Like I'm kind of thinking about it more in terms of like a work type thing where I know that this is what these people are doing right now, but I'll be looking at the light. I'll be looking at like, I wish that I was there if I'm not there. Um, yeah, you look at it in a very different way. I don't necessarily look at it from a racing fan perspective now. It's kind of like a very uh top-down overhead view type perspective, like lots of different angles and things that am thinking about when I watch.
I mean, it's definitely a different angle to think about than what we've heard from most people thus far. Like
Like
some are,
even when a driver gets out of the car and they're celebrating, I will see a driver get like you'll see a driver get out of the car and celebrate, and I'll be like, he's done that celebration. Like Max, for example, is the same
always the
celebration,
same.
and he gets out of the car, and I'm like, same shit, different day, and yeah, like I see a lot of that stuff where people don't always look at it from that perspective, but I see like when Lewis used to win, every single time he'd get out of the car was a different celebration, which was a lot of fun as a photographer. Same with Schumacher. I never really covered any of the Schumacher dominance or years when he was like winning everything, but same with Alonso. I would give anything for somebody else to win, not just because I want somebody else to win. I appreciate what Max is doing, but I want to see somebody else celebrate and see what that would be like.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love Formula E, because you never know who's gonna win. It can
Yeah,
change last corner at
yeah,
any race.
yeah.
But yeah, it's always interesting to see like how people celebrate. Also, even if they get P2 or P3, or if they just get points.
Yep.
It's always a difference depending on like what driver you have, but also what team you drive for.
I mean, I really enjoyed last year watching Alonso, get some podiums, because he celebrated them like he'd won the race. Like I was in Brazil, and when he got out of the car, he looked like he'd won the race. Like he was up on the podium, and I've never. It was one of my favorite shots of the year last year was Alonso celebrating his podium in Brazil because the car had gone through a serious slump. They hadn't been competitive, and then suddenly he dragged it back onto the podium again, and he's up on the podium giving everything you want as a photographer. Like you want that emotion. You don't want a driver like Max, to be honest, who just has the same emotions no matter what, no matter how many races in a row he's won. He looks the same as he did the first time he did it. And that's fine for him. But like as a photographer, you want to document, you want to see those emotions that the drivers have. You want to see the passion that they have for racing. And it makes it so much more fun to document it when you have a guy like Alonso who is like doing his like fist pump and he's like screaming at the top of his lungs and he's so excited to be third.
Yeah, I
I don't know.
always
I
love
love it.
I love those celebrations as well, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always exciting.
Uh, what is the best advice you have gotten, and what is the best advice you have ever given?
Uh, the best advice the best advice I've gotten from other photographers is, it wasn't even from a motorsport photographer. This was just a photographer that I worked for at one of the newspapers I was interning with. And the advice that he gave me was to put my camera down, like just take it off my eye and just use your eyes. Like look around, look at the scene, look at the situation, look around you, see what is actually happening. Because when you have a camera up to your eye, you're only using one eye for starters. You can't use two eyes with a camera. So you're using one, like literally 50% of your vision. And unless it's a really like wide angle lens, and even then it's not a good like thing to be doing because it takes away your depth perception. It takes away your ability to like, have what's going on in your periphery. So his advice was to just put the camera down and use your eyes and see the world, see whatever it is you're shooting. And it really changed the way that I approached photography because when you're so tunnel visioned into like one scene or one situation, you forget what's happening out here or behind you. Um, and it really was an incredible piece of advice that he gave me that I've tried to pass on to people. I've passed that on a lot to people as well, because it is really important when you're just staring down the viewfinder, of a telephoto lens, like you don't see a lot. Like you can't see what's happening here. You only see what's happening here. I think that's probably the best advice I've been given and continue to give, if I can use that as an answer.
You can. I mean, we
You definitely can.
ask this most of the times to our guests, and sometimes it are different answers, but a lot of the times it's kind of the same. So,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a good one that he gave me that.
Yeah, and I feel like always like hearing about like what kind of advice people like to get, well, have gotten and like to pass on, it definitely says something about a person and the way they see the world and are in the world. I feel like that definitely like just gives so much insight, like questions like that. So
Yeah.
I always find that one of the most interesting questions to hear an answer about.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, yeah, advice is always important to get, and
The
especially to
most
get further.
the most important, like you can always like try and get there on your own, but it's so much easier when you can talk to people and can talk to the people that have been there before you and have the experience and life advice to give you to, you know, help you see the world differently, which is, one of the things that I've been so grateful to have is people to give me advice and to give me their experiences because they've been doing it for longer than I have. And I'm, pretty acutely aware now that I have a, fairly substantial social media following of people that are interested in not just the sport or sports that I cover, the different niches of motorsport that I'm able to be around, but that they're interested in photography as a discipline, as a thing to do as a hobby because it's accessible for anybody. Like anybody with a phone can be a photographer. Like you don't have to have a nice camera with a nice lens to be a photographer. So being able to pass on some of the advice and some of the wisdom that I've been given to people that also equally love photography is really cool. And to be able to do some of the workshops that I've done about motorsport photography in particular, and the YouTube videos that I do that kind of show my world that's not just like there's so many we were talking about earlier, there's so many stories within Formula One that aren't being told because they won't let us tell it. And I personally, like I know the Masters golf tournament is coming up in Augusta, Georgia, and I do not care about golf. Like golf is not my thing. And I am so curious about the photographers that are covering golf, like that are covering this event. Like, what are they thinking? Why are they choosing that spot? Why are they at this hole? Why are they following this golfer? I want to know that stuff because that's interesting to me. But the Golf Channel and the broadcast won't talk about that. And it's this exact same in Formula One that we have these incredible stories of journalists that have been, like there's an incredible journalist and artist, Giorgio Piola. And Giorgio, he's the guy that's looking at all the designs of the cars and the really interesting, basically spy details of each car. Like he works with photographers in the media center looking at their pictures and then will do drawings of them on in like CAD drawings, and he'll do very, very iconic and specific cars and how like they change from race to race. And I don't, to my knowledge, like nobody's really done a lot on Giorgio Piola, but like he's an amazing guy. He's a really interesting guy. And there's photographers. Mark Sutton just had his 600th Formula One Grand Prix in Japan. 600. That's a lot of races. And yet these are the people that are never on the broadcast. They're never really interviewed. Like Mark does a couple interviews and things, but there's so many stories that aren't about the drivers that we're not getting. And so that's what I like. That's the stuff that I'm really interested in. And I know a lot of other people are too.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
even know where I was going with that, but
Sometimes a story doesn't have to have an destination. Sometimes the journey to it
yeah,
is the important part.
yeah.
Is there someone you look up to, and if so, who is it?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few photographers that I really look up to. So my very good friend James Moy, he's been kind of a mentor, a friend, somebody that's like hired me for a lot of races. You know, we've been very close for a number of years, and he's an incredible photographer, but also an incredible businessman. Um, there's another guy named Laurent Charniot who's just an incredible photographer and so hardworking and just a really good guy. Darren Heath is a photographer that I looked up to very much when I was starting my photography journey. I think his work has, been just amazing over the decades. There's just so many, like Vladimir Reese, who's the Red Bull photographer. Anybody that's seen a Red Bull picture on their account for the last 10 years or so has seen Vlad's work. Mark Thompson. I mean, I could like name 100 people that I look up to them. Maybe not like every piece of them is something that I really look up to, but there's parts of everybody that I take inspiration from. There's photographers that don't shoot motorsport, that have nothing to do with motorsport, that I look up to their business, to the way that they run their business, to the way they run their agency, that they have nothing to do with sports or motorsports, but I it's not that I idolize them, but I have a huge amount of respect for them. Chris Burkard is like a photographer that I have a lot of, respect for, that he is never, as far as I know, he's never pointed a camera at, anything with wheels and an engine in it. So yeah, there's just so many different photographers that I've kind of taken bits and pieces from, but yeah, it's been amazing to be able to work alongside the photographers that I looked up to so much when I was young. Starting my career and building my portfolio, to be able to like and knowing, I knew that their iconic pictures of, whatever it is from whatever era, I knew their pictures and I knew their name and I knew their faces before I even necessarily knew some of the drivers. Like the drivers come and go, but like Mark Sutton's been around for 600 races. Like how many of the drivers have been around for 600 races? None of them. So I know Alonso's getting close. I have Alonso's gift hat that he gave the media when he had his 300th Grand Prix. But yeah,
Sounds incredible, like just so many bits and pieces of the
yeah,
different
yeah, it's an amazing
photographers.
sport. It's an amazing sport.
Definitely. And definitely also so many amazing people working in it.
Yep.
You were
Yeah.
present with the incident with Charles that after her defense were like surrounding him, basically. Have you seen more of those incidents, and do you think more of those incidents will happen?
I hope not. I hope they don't continue to happen. I think it was just kind of a situation that just had a lot of it was like the perfect storm of of stuff going wrong. I've seen instances before where the fans got not out of control, but like a fence fell down and, people fall over. They like kind of move forward a little bit closer than they should. Um, I've seen it with, Valentino Rossi fans a lot. Like I've seen it when you get these guys in an uncontrolled situation where they are kind of in the mix with people that they shouldn't necessarily be like surrounded by. I've seen it before. But that felt like really out of control where the fans just ended up running into the garage. And yeah, I don't even think Charles or his management, because there was a couple of the PR people around from Ferrari and there was a couple of mechanics, that some of the mechanics double as like security. Like there's some bigger guys that are basically Ferrari security, and they were kind of always around. And when that stanchion fell, like I'm honestly surprised that Charles stayed as long as he did, because he isn't normally surrounded on all sides. Like it's like there's a row of people, like the fans, and then the driver will be on one side, and he'll have the PR people on either side kind of handing out autograph cards for people to sign. And he got completely surrounded on all sides, where he was basically in the middle of all of it. And that's kind of when things got out of control. But he stayed like signing autographs for a lot longer than I thought he would once he was surrounded. And I was kind of like, whoa, this is really crazy. And then once he tried to leave, that's when it got even crazier, that people just kept following him. They were tripping over wheel guns, they were tripping over like pit equipment, and then they ended up he like got put like literally kind of almost carried by one of the mechanics back into the garage. They were like pushing people aside, and they were kind of like really holding on to him so that they could get him out of there. It was pretty crazy. And I hope I don't see that stuff a lot more, but it's kind of a symptom of how popular Formula One is, but also how people don't see the drivers as human beings. And people would say the same thing about photographers. Like there was a big I don't want to say it was controversy, but when Charles retired in Brazil, he happened to walk by me and a bunch of other photographers that were nearby. Like he literally parked the car next to me. And people, some of the fans on Twitter especially, were very upset that we would take his picture as he's walking back to the garage. And like, if you were actually there, we never chased him around. Like he walked past me and then literally looked at me and was like, how do I get back to the garage? I'm like, you walk along the wall and go that way. Just keep walking. Um, and then he ended up getting pushed. He ended up getting told to come back by another marshal. So, people were like on social media were really upset that we were taking his picture when he was in this like moment of um I don't know, desperation is what they call it. They just didn't think we were being very civil to him. It's like there's a difference between chasing the guy when he's, on a date in Monaco with his girlfriend, which a lot of people would do, and when he's at work,
Yeah,
like, outside of the car walking back during a race. Like that's
yeah.
not the
I
same
remember
thing.
I remember us talking about it and being like, those photographers are just doing their literal job. They're there to photographer to take
And there's
photos
been,
of the drivers.
yeah, there's been
Yes,
so many
of them in
situations
the
over the
car, but
years too.
also if they retire, you want to get the best pictures out of it.
Well, it's part of the history of the sport too. Like it's a part of the
Exactly.
history, like when Kimi Räikkönen retired and walked back onto his yacht in Monaco, or Nigel Mansell collapsed under his what was it? The Williams or the Tyrrell or something? I don't remember what, but he like was trying to push his car across the finish line and collapsed from heat exhaustion. And photographers and video crews were there, and it's literally something that's part of the history of the sport. And it's not just important to document the happy times, but it's
Yeah.
important to document the sad times too. It's important to document, that these people are humans, and that this is not a machine sport. It's a human sport where machines are involved. And it really made me sad that people were angry at me and other photographers for documenting this part of the sport, because I'm not here for just the happy times. Like, I don't want to see anybody die. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But it is a dangerous sport, and you have to be able to document the good stuff and the not good stuff to be able to tell the history and the story of the sport. Because if you only point a lens at Max Verstappen every week, who's having the greatest weekend of his life, you're missing, the Logan Sargents who are having a hard time, or, Charles who's crashed out of yet another, Grand Prix. And it's sad. Like, it's really hard, but the best sports pictures in the world aren't the ones of happy people. They're the ones of, a World Cup soccer team where you see all the winning team celebrating in the background, and in the foreground, the subject is the guy that's like, or the girl that's lying on the field broken because they put their heart and soul into this, and they've given it everything, and it's an amazing sports picture. And those are the ones that, as a photographer, as a person who not only loves the sport for the happy times, but the sad times too, because it makes it so real.
Definitely agree. Like, to
Yeah.
capture the highs and the lows shows the full story instead of just the happy side of story, which is often what is shown on social media.
Yeah. But that's social media for you. People be crazy.
Definitely. We've talked about that a lot on the podcast about the
Yeah.
craziness of so many people.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different story. I
Yeah.
can talk about that for ages, but
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I think we talk about that a lot, that a lot of friends forget that they are just people. Like, I get for them, they are also like gods, but we shouldn't forget they are just normal people with normal families and friends.
Yeah.
But we are
yeah.
also coming slowly to an end of the episode. Do you have questions for us?
No, I mean, I think you guys, it's really cool, to have you both like be so passionate about the sport and racing and Formula E. Like, I think that's one of the things that I've loved about motorsport, is that it's got people from all over the world. I mean, you're in Europe and I'm in America, and that we all have a shared passion for racing, like I said, and I love that. And I think it's really cool that you're getting women interested and girls interested. Like, I have a young daughter, and I want her to grow up to be passionate about racing, but also know that, it's not just the boys that can race, that can do these things. She can be an engineer, she can be a mechanic, she can be a driver if she wants to be. I don't like hope that for her, but if she wants that, like, I would support her. And so I think it's really cool to have, men, women, kids, everybody have this passion for racing, that we all love it for our own reasons, but we all love the same thing.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I especially love like the the amount of different series and categories that there are, so that everyone can can find something that they can enjoy and find aspects of the sports that they can enjoy. Like, I focus a lot of my interest on the health aspect. Jamie focuses more on PR and marketing aspects when researching things. Like, the differences is just incredible.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
possibilities are endless.
yeah, there's so many ways to dissect racing, and there's something for everybody. Like you said, like, there's people that are really interested in the health and nutrition side of it, and that's become a really big, important part of racing. And then, there's people like me that are there for the photography side, and there's the engineering side, and it's like you could take the racers out of it and still have a really interesting, you don't even have to talk about a driver once, and you could still have a really interesting conversation with somebody about the sport of Formula One or Formula E or MotoGP or racing in general.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. There's so much to talk about, so many different aspects. And if we had the time to talk about them all, we could be here for days.
Yep.
That's true. We want to thank you for joining us for this episode. It was very nice to speak with you. And to our listeners, if you don't follow us already on the socials, in the description of today's episode will be the Linktree link with all our socials and the WhatsApp group for the European Formula E races. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode.
Yes, thank you for today.
Thanks for having me.
It was very much fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
You want me to take you back.